This doesn't happen often. A camera company comes along and decides to create a completely new model, never before seen, that sparks the intrigue and apprehension of the photography world. I am talking, of course, about the Sigma BF. I have in front of me the black model with a matching 35mm f2 Sigma lens. Thank you to the team at CR Kennedy for loaning this review unit. CR Kennedy are the official distributors for the Sigma BF here in Australia. No money was exchanged, so everything I say remains entirely BF, bias-free. How is the user experience? How good is the image quality? Are there any drawbacks? Well, let me take you on a 7-day trip to my hometown in China, somewhere I haven't been back to visit in almost 20 years. Having only received this camera literally the day before my flight, it's almost poetic, taking an unfamiliar camera to an unfamiliar place to make memories that will last a lifetime. Let's fly. We're at the entrance of the hotel right now, and look, like already there's just so much potential around me. It's insane. My brain's going crazy. This is one of the things that I face when I go to a completely new place. My hometown is not a completely new place, but when you go to a place that you haven't been to for a long time and everything's new and your photography brain goes into overdrive, and I'm starting to see just so many things that I want to take photos of. It's very unhealthy, but also good at the same time. We're going to have some fun. I've got the Sigma BF on me, and for the majority of the trip, I'm going to be using this camera to produce all the photos that you see. So hopefully I do a good job at it. But yeah, let's get shooting. This is an amazing scene, like right here already. You've got shards of glass getting, you know, the light shining through. So it's really cool, contrasty. Got a nice car in the foreground, just as a foreground subject, and then you've got the buildings in the background with the sun shining directly at me. So let's see if we can make this work. The backlit might make it a little bit difficult, but I'll edit it in post. Let's frame up. We'll get the car in the right third, and then we'll get the shards of glass in the upper third along the line, and then hopefully everything will line up there. Perfect. I've been shooting for maybe like 30 minutes or 40 minutes so far, and Sigma BF started off with, let's say, 94% battery, and now it's currently at 69% battery. Yeah, it eats up battery quite fast. So planning to get a Sigma BF, definitely get 1 or 2 extra batteries for this if you're not into, you know, charging it with a power bank frequently, because yeah, it's definitely one of the biggest drawbacks of the Sigma BF that I'm finding so far. So my hometown is divided into 2 different sides. On my grandma's side, it's all rural. As you can see, the pastures down there, they're all growing vegetables and stuff. But then as soon as you cross the bridge to the other side, it's all urban development. So you get this really crazy like contrast between like fully developed and then just still kind of rural landscape. And it makes for a really nice image. The other problems with the Sigma BF, and as I'm standing here trying to take this landscape shot, is if the sun is directly pointed towards you, when you're looking at the screen, because it's not a tilt screen or any kind of, like, it doesn't have any anti-glare features, you're going to get a lot of glare on the screen, and it makes it very hard to actually see the image, especially when you have to get low to the ground and things like that. You're shooting blind most of the time when the sun is not working towards your favor. that this camera is fully electronic shutter, which poses a few issues, especially when you're taking photos of fast-moving subjects. If a motorbike speeds past, or you're speeding past a motorbike, I don't know, whichever. Another issue with the electronic shutter is that under certain lighting conditions, if you're shooting at a certain shutter speed, you're going to end up with banding in your images. And you can clearly see the banding on the back of the LCD screen on the Sigma BF. So what you need to do in order to compensate for that is you need to adjust your shutter speed to match the wavelength of the light itself. And that just means that you've locked yourself into a certain shutter speed, which means that you need to adjust the other settings of aperture and ISO in order to compensate for the lighting conditions, which is really unideal. Another, I guess, point that I need to address with the Sigma BF is, even though it looks amazing, it's a beautiful camera with sharp, clean lines and smooth body and all that stuff. You notice that I said sharp, clean lines. They are really sharp. So when you're holding it in your hand for an extended period of time, you're going to feel that sharp edge move across your skin. It's not a great experience. And when you're holding it with one hand without the support of your other hand on it, you're going to find that the corners here are going to dig into your hand on the palm area. And you might not notice it at first, but over time, you're going to definitely feel it. When you move to another camera body and you hold on to that, you can instantly tell the difference. It's like, oh, I've been suffering this whole time. Don't like the fact that it only has one point where you can attach a strap. The only option you have is to basically attach a wrist strap. You probably could end up with a neck strap if you had a long enough, I guess, loop, but I don't think it's really ideal because you only have one point of contact and you're holding such a tremendous weight. The Sigma is not a light camera, and if you had a bigger lens than the 35 f2, it's really going to weigh you down. The thumb grip on the back helps a little bit, but I find that even with the thumb grip, the ergonomics of this camera is kind of subpar compared to any other camera out there, even Leica's. Ergonomics of this camera, if 5 was average, I'll give it like a 4. It's under average. It just doesn't feel great holding the camera. Other people might see it and it looks great when I'm holding it like this, but the person using it is not going to have a great time. I love my hometown because there's so many layers and levels. So we're pretty far down at the moment, but as you can see up in the distance, that's where we were before, and then up the top. So you're going to get foreground, midground, and background very, very easily, and there's a lot of colors to be had. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a photo right here. Hopefully I can get the bin in frame and me out of the frame. Get some of that flower in the background and that little fire extinguisher thing, pipe that's sticking out the ground, and the blue background all in one frame. I'm gonna actually squat down a little bit for this. So we're at 1/400th of a second, f8, and then ISO 125. And I'll just focus on the midground, tapping on the screen, and then boom, boom. And that's a pretty decent image, I'd say. It is hot and I forgot to put on sunscreen, and all I have is this little cap to protect me. My neck is getting cooked, but the Sigma BF is holding up pretty well in this heat. I gotta say though, because this is made out of all metal aluminium construction, when it gets hot, especially this black version, it absorbs all the heat. And yeah, you can definitely feel it when you're gripping the camera. And because I'm like shooting and charging this camera at the same time because of how poor the battery life is, yeah, it gets really warm. Okay, so let's talk about user interface for this camera. The user interface for this camera is tricky to get used to. If you are used to diving into menus all the time, if you are used to, Sony menus, going into a Sigma BF is actually, probably one of the worst things that could happen, or it's a breath of fresh air. It's a little bit of both. The menu is basically on the screen itself, and how to navigate it is you use the control wheel and the dial to go through each setting and then change it on the fly. So what I mean is, see on the menu, you've got the top and the bottom bar. If you cycle through it by tapping on the control dial, you'll be able to access each one. And when it's selected, you can use the control wheel to change the settings for that specific thing. So for example, if I have it on shutter speed, I can use the wheel to change the shutter speed to whatever desired effect. And then when I want to choose the ISO, I simply have to select ISO using the, by tapping on the control wheel to get to ISO. Then I turn the wheel again to change the ISO. It's that simple, right? You just have to go to the setting that you want to change and then change it. It's actually pretty intuitive once you get used to it. The only problem with it is I really wish that it was touchscreen, so you could actually tap on the menu settings with your fingers. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Final verdict about the Sigma BF after using this camera for 7 days in China. Honestly, if you've got the skills and you know how to work a camera, the Sigma BF is simply just another camera. It doesn't take very long to get used to the quirks of this camera, especially the user interface in the settings. And once you get the hang of it, it actually is just as intuitive as any other camera. Don't let the aesthetics fool you. This camera actually can handle quite a lot. And the images that it produces is perfectly fine and comparable to many other camera brands out there. Sigma BF is an amazing camera. It just has a few shortcomings that prevent me from really recommending it to most people. But if you're determined to buy a camera that looks amazing and takes great photos, and you don't really care about ergonomics or whatever, Sigma BF. I'm going to take more photos now. See you back at home. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. But let's now go over the hardware. This also happens to be the Sigma BF's strongest selling point. If you're a fan of minimalism, clean lines and silhouettes, and appreciate quiet luxury and monotones, this camera 100% delivers. It truly is, in my eyes, a work of art, like a beautiful painting. I love that this camera can appear so clean and simple from a distance, but if you get close, you start to notice the small quote-unquote brush strokes laid on the canvas. The flush rear LCD and pill-shaped display window, subtle curves, knurled control dial, recessed bevel around the buttons, and the word Sigma finely engraved in elegant serif font. No other modern mirrorless full-frame camera at this price point comes close to the Sigma BF's sheer aesthetic at the time of this recording. This camera is interesting. Despite all the seemingly negative opinions I expressed on my trip, I would be wrong to say I didn't enjoy using it as a tool to capture photos. In the hands of somebody who knows what they are doing, the Sigma BF becomes as capable as any other photography camera. Limiting the amount of customizability and menu options is, in a way, liberating. I spent no more than an hour to fully accustom myself with how to navigate the buttons, dials, and settings without a user manual, and I got to focus solely on shooting. I like the haptic playback button that allows me to quickly preview my most recently captured image, the haptic menu button to quickly display extra info, keeping the screen clutter-free, and the way all the buttons, excluding the on-off button, locks and becomes unpressable when turned off. I also enjoy the folder structure of the Sigma BF, with a new folder being created for each day and labeled accordingly. What disappointed me above all else was the lack of mechanical shutter. Of course, there are other shortcomings, such as lack of viewfinder, tiltable screen, IBIS, hot shoe, ergonomics, battery life, the poorly positioned tripod mounting point, and the lack of ability to offload files and charge the camera at the same time. I could personally overlook all of this if it simply had a mechanical shutter system. I didn't enjoy using it in any situation where things were moving too fast or there was artificial lighting. The warping and banding caused by the electronic shutter isn't pleasant at all. In terms of video, there's not much to say. The quality is pretty decent and the Leica L-Log is fine, but lack of features and ports on the camera body means you will be severely limited in what you can achieve. Things that I think Sigma could absolutely fix or add to elevate the user experience. A battery grip that can extend the runtime, add additional ports and or storage, add Bluetooth or wireless connectivity, and give it better ergonomics all in one accessory would be a no-brainer. Do it better than any third-party manufacturer, and this would be a sure sell product. Making it even faster to navigate an already simple menu interface by unlocking touch functionality will make taking photos that much more fun in the moment. Having the option to control the focus box using the rear dial would be a pleasant feature to include. Flicker compensation via a firmware update could resolve some issues when shooting in artificial lighting situations. Smaller, more compact lenses. But I'm sure Sigma already knows this, right? I feel like these things are totally reasonable and could be implemented. If I have missed anything that you think Sigma could totally do to improve this camera without overcomplicating the system, drop it in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So ultimately, would I buy this camera? Most likely not. Should you buy this camera? Well, if you desire a camera that is more fashion than it is function, sure. For everyone else, there is an alternative on the market that will do just as good as a job as taking photos and videos for less cost. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful or entertaining, please like this video, subscribe, and comment your thoughts. I've got other videos you might find interesting over here. Go check them out. Till next time, bye-bye.